Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's subcommittee of the Licensing Committee. The first item on the agenda is item 1, that's the election of chair. Do we have any nominations? Yes. Very much. Thank you very much. Okay. So firstly, I'd like to pass over to our clerk this morning to go through the housekeeping. So I'll hand over to you, Louise.
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building in Bourne Avenue. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off and switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off your microphones when not talking and turning down the volume on your laptops completely. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is to ask the clerk if there's any apologies for this morning's meeting.
Apologies have been received from Councillor Keddy, who was a reserve member for today's hearing.
Item 3 on the agenda this morning, does any member of the subcommittee have any declarations of interest?
None. None.
Okay, and I have none as well. Two, 3, 5 EY. And I will now ask each member of the subcommittee this morning to introduce themselves and state their role.
Councillor Judy Richardson, member of Licensing Subcommittee.
Lawrence Williams, councillor for Littledown Lyford and also a member of the committee.
And I'm Councillor Chris Matthews. I'm also a member of the committee, but I'm also chairing this morning's meeting. In addition, we have Councillor Chapman Law, who is a reserve member here this morning of the Licensing Subcommittee. He's not required to participate if all members are present, but he will stay in an observational capacity, but take no part in the hearing or the deliberations. I'd like now to move to the other members of people who are here this morning. So if I could start with, on this side, if you'd like to introduce yourself and say.
Good morning, my name's Ellie King. I'm a BCP Council Licensing Officer and I made a representation in support of the review.
Hello, I'm Tanya Jardine, Licensing Officer. I didn't have any comment to make on this application, just observing. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Andy Hill, one of the Environmental Health Officers, and I'm bringing the review on behalf of the Environmental Health team.
Good morning, Gareth Gosling. I'm a sergeant with Dorset Police's Drug and Alcohol Harm Reduction team, and I'm here today alongside a colleague in support of the review that's been brought by the Environmental Health team.
Good morning, Louise Busfield, Drug and Alcohol Harm Prevention Team. I'm submitting an application in support of the review being brought by Environmental Health.
Also add that in the corner over there we have another colleague of ours. It's Councillor Farquhar, who's a member of the Licensing Committee, but he's just here this morning to observe.
Louise Smith, Democratic Support Officer and Clerk to the committee today.
Thank you.
Sorry, yes.
According to the agenda, my name's Mike Forster. I'm a barrister at 12 College Place Barristers. I'm here to advise the committee as to any legal issues. I'm the legal advisor.
Yes, and additionally we have Sarah online.
Hello,
So
good morning.
would you like to introduce her?
Yes, good morning. Apologies for not being there in person today. I'm Sarah Rogers. I'm Principal Licensing Officer, BCP Council, presenting this application.
That's it. Right. Finally, may I remind all parties speaking not to repeat any information which they've already made, given in writing, but to expand upon the written representations. All questions are to be asked through the chair, and there will be no cross-examination of parties. I think everyone understands that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. So, do we have anyone from premises this morning? Okay. So before I run through the procedure, may I check that all persons who've given notice of their intention to speak have been identified? Is that the case? Any persons who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has been identified. Nobody here this morning in that. And I'm now going to explain the procedure and order of speaking for the hearing this morning as follows. So firstly, the licensing officer presents the report, and then the questions of the licensing officer by all members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant, in this case Environmental Services, will make their application. Questions of the applicant by all parties, and again the members of the subcommittee are to go first. Responsible authorities in support of the application will make their representations. We have the police here this morning and BCP Licensing. Questions of responsible authorities, members of the subcommittee to go first. Persons representing the premises will make their representation, but as we've nobody here this morning, that's not likely to happen. Questions of persons representing the premises, again, members of the subcommittee will go first, if that was the case. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last to go first. The hearing will then conclude, and then the subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. The notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day of which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. Okay, so I'd like to ask all members of the parties who are present here this morning just to confirm agreement on the proposed procedures or make representations. Is that okay with everybody? Brilliant, thank you. So I'm now going to go to the licensing officer and to ask them to present the report.
Thank you.
To you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. BCP Council's Environmental Health have applied to review the premises licence at the Governor, 364 Lymington Road, under Section 51 of the Licensing Act. Premises are located on the corner of a busy main road through Highcliffe, which contains a mixture of pubs, takeaways, commercial and residential premises. Environmental Health believe the premises are not upholding the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective and have no confidence in the licence holder, who is also the DPS. Dorset Police and the Licensing Authority of BCP Council have made representations in support of the review, along with 6 other persons. No representations were received from any of the other responsible authorities. There has not been any contact from the licence holder or a representative to myself as the officer dealing since the review was applied for, which is unusual. Environmental Health did hear from the licence holder to arrange a meeting, but this didn't proceed, which is set out in Mr. Hill's supplementary evidence. Members are reminded that any power exercised by them must be appropriate and proportionate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and directed at the causes of concern, which the application identifies, and once these have been established following this hearing. Thank you.
Committee, any questions? No. Yeah. Yeah, what we're gonna do now is move on to environmental health. So Andy Hill, hear from
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I wish to be respectful of the time of the committee members and those present, and therefore would not wish to repeat all the information I've already submitted to accompany my application for review of this premises license. I think, as Mrs. Rogers alluded to, hopefully the committee would now have had an opportunity to review the supplementary information which I've already submitted. What I'd like to do, though, however, is just to provide a brief recap of this particular complex case. On the 6th of February this year, BCP Council received a letter from a concerned member of the public regarding the high levels of noise and antisocial behaviour coming from the above premises since it opened on the 12th of January 2024. The concerned member of the public had sent a letter to the proprietor of the venue outlining their concerns and detailing a catalogue of events which had occurred, often within the early hours of the morning. Again, a copy of the letter has been attached to assist the committee. I then wrote out to the premises advising them that I'd received a number of complaints and reminded them of their obligations under the Environmental Protection Act, as well as the Licensing Act, to ensure they take adequate steps to prevent public nuisance to the residences in the vicinity of the premises. Again, this letter has been attached to assist the committee. I received no response from the venue in relation to the above letter. I received a further complaint on the 5th of March from again another concerned member of the public regarding the above venue. This time the complainant actually made an inquiry regarding the premises license and alleged that the premises had been playing loud music in the evenings and most weekends since opening, which had had a significant detrimental effect on the local community, local residents. On this particular occasion, the complainant was awoken at 10 to 5 in the morning by loud music emanating from the venue. I don't know if members have had opportunity to visit the venue, but it's completely surrounded by residential properties. We also have residents who live directly above the venue. I undertook some further inquiries, identified that the premises license had very limited conditions attached to the license, particularly in respect to noise, and benefits from a 24-hour license. So therefore, currently, there are no restrictions on regulated entertainment or indeed hours of operation. Further inquiries revealed that there are a number of residential properties situated above, as I've already mentioned, and speaking to a number of the residents had advised me that they had not been affected to such a large degree by noise when the venue was operated by the previous operators. Further emails were sent to the venue advising them of my concerns. In a letter I wrote to them, I made it very, very clear that I was seeking to review the premises license and advise the operators to set up a meeting with myself, colleagues in Dorset Police and Licensing to discuss a way forward. The business operator chose not to attend that meeting. He sent a representative who at the meeting had no real say in the operation of the premises. We felt it was a fairly junior member of staff. Again, a copy of the correspondence has been attached to assist the committee. I want to be respectful of the time of the committee. I know there have been a few other incidences of noise. Particularly, we received a complaint from a resident. A member of our public protection team actually went out and witnessed the noise nuisance. He provided a witness statement in relation to his observations. The officer who attended felt that the noise levels he witnessed would meet the definition of a statutory noise nuisance. Unfortunately, the decision was taken at the time that the noise abatement notice would not be served because we decided that we had to take immediate action in terms of reviewing the premises license. There have been significant improvements in the business since that incident, I have to admit. So again, I'd like to invite the subcommittee to consider all the options available to them under the Licensing Act, with particular consideration given to the addition of a number of conditions to the premises license. Would the committee like me to discuss the premises license conditions unlike attached, or are you able to refer to that in your supplementary evidence?
Perhaps you could just give a quick brief.
Happy to do that.
Briefly,
yeah, no problem. Yeah. So I've asked that a report be submitted detailing the potential for noise from amplified music and patrons at the premises affecting neighbouring noise-sensitive properties and residential properties. This report needs to include a scheme of noise mitigation measures to show that nuisance will not be caused to the occupiers of the noise-sensitive properties by noise from the licensed premises. I've asked that this report be submitted to and improved in writing by the council through an authorised officer of the environmental health team, and all recommended works carried out in full prior to the commencement of any further regulated entertainment. The reason for this is because the premises, directly above the premises, a number of residential properties, and there isn't sufficient acoustic mitigation within the premises to prevent the transfer of noise up towards the residential properties above. So I felt that in order for the premises to continue to offer loud and live and recorded music, significant works would need to be undertaken to control the passage of sound to the premises above. Hence why I've asked for that condition. I also asked the subcommittee to consider the addition of the following conditions, particularly with regards to disapplying the provisions of the Live Music Act under section 177A of the Licensing Act, so that any provision of live or recorded music at any time is licensable and subject to conditions on the license. This is really important because, as I'm sure committee members will be aware, music only becomes a licensable activity after 11 o'clock, and therefore any conditions in respect to noise would only be enforceable after 11 o'clock. So I was concerned, I still am concerned, that if the venue were to hold live and recorded music events up until 11 o'clock, the only provisions available to us are the provisions of the Environmental Protection Act to prevent statutory noise nuisances. However, we have no provisions available to us under the Licensing Act, particularly in respect to noise, because the license conditions in respect to noise would only become enforceable after 11 o'clock. However, if the provisions of the Live Music Act are disapplied, then the conditions in respect to noise become enforceable through the duration of the operation of the premises. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, that's I've also asked that the license holder shall ensure that any queue to enter the premises which forms outside the premises is orderly and supervised by door staff, so as to ensure that there's no public nuisance or obstruction to the public highway. Speaking to a number of the local residents, they felt that often when the patrons were outside the venue, waiting to go into the venue or indeed using the smoking area, that there were noise levels were particularly high, and there were also a number of residents had mentioned to me that they were exposed to verbal abuse from patrons. I've asked that a noise limiter be fitted to the musical amplification system set to a level determined by and to the satisfaction of an authorised officer of the environmental health team, to ensure that the noise nuisance caused by to local residents or businesses, to prevent noise nuisance caused to local residents or businesses. The reason for that is that any music that's played at the venue will then go through a noise limiter to prevent the excessive volumes of music. And as a service, we tend to work quite closely with the business. What we would do is we go to the local residents and set the limit, set the noise limit at a level that would not be excessive to local residents, and hence why I've asked for that condition. I think it's a very important condition for a licensed premises that plays live and recorded music. I've also asked that no noise generated on the premises or by associated plants or equipment shall emanate from the premises, nor vibration be transmitted through the structure, which gives rise to a nuisance. That's a fairly standard condition. I've asked that a lobbied entrance, that's 2 sets of doors, are installed to the premises, so that when one door is closed, the other one is open, and that's to prevent the passage of sound outward towards the road, and indeed affecting local residents who live opposite the venue. I've asked that all windows and external doors shall be kept closed after 11 o'clock, or at any time when regulated entertainment takes place, except for the immediate access and egress of persons. Now, the reason I've asked for that, but as I've asked for the Live Music Act to be disapplied, that condition would really be applicable if the Live Music Act would be disapplied. So if live music is played, the windows and doors have to be kept closed to ensure that local residents are not affected. And I've also asked that a direct telephone number for the manager at the premises shall be publicly available at all times, and the telephone number should be made available to residents and businesses in the vicinity. So that's the conditions I've asked for in respect to noise. I believe those conditions would suitably protect local residents from any adverse impact from noise. However, the main change I would really request for this premises license, and I think would have a significant impact on the community, is reduction of the terminal hour of this premises. Currently, the premises benefits from a 24-hour license. I think, as I've said before, currently there's no legal reason for the premises not to have live and recorded bands up until 4 o'clock in the morning. I feel that this is not in keeping with the local community. I believe we've shown a significant impact of this premises on the local community. I've therefore asked that the terminal hour of the business be reduced from Sunday to Sunday to Thursday, closing at 11 o'clock, and Friday and Saturday closing at midnight. And that's everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's really informative. I'm going to ask the subcommittee, do you have any questions of Councillor Williams?
How confident are you that any conditions that we might put in would be adhered to, given the applicant's not here today?
It's a process. We have to take a graduated approach to enforcement. I think the only other option available to me was to ask the subcommittee to completely revoke the premises license. I don't think I have enough evidence at the moment to do that. I think as a graduated approach to enforcement, I think this is the next available option to us. I think if the conditions are not adhered to, that is an offence under the Licensing Act, we would then be able to escalate, and potentially we may need to find ourselves in front of the committee again to ask that the premises license be revoked. I have also recently had communication from the premises license holder saying that his intention is to operate the premises as a restaurant, and therefore potentially there should be no live and recorded music. However, this was verbal communication. This was never put in writing, and I've done a number of visits to the premises. There's no indication that the premises is going to be operated as a restaurant. It appears to be exactly the same as what it was before. I hope I've answered your question, but I think we just have to wait to see if I think reduction of the premises license is a significant sanction, of the hours is a significant sanction on the business, and I hope that they will comply with these conditions, but we only have to wait to see.
Councillor Richardson.
Yes, my question follows on from that actually, but how are you, if they're refusing to engage with you, how are you going to get them to engage in the first place?
Well, I mean, if I'm completely honest, I would have thought the licensee would have attended the hearing today. It's going to have quite a significant impact on the operation of his premises, and that's a very, very good question. I mean, I think you'll see in the supplementary information that we thought the licensee was willing to engage with us. He actually asked for a meeting with myself, colleagues from licensing and Dorset Police. He didn't attend that meeting. So I don't know. I mean, we have legal sanctions available to us under the Environmental Protection Act, so noise abatement notices, which will immediately prohibit noise from the venue. But again, if we serve a notice and the operator decides to still have live music and create a statutory noise nuisance, that's a criminal offence. The local authority would then be forced to prosecute the individual for that, and as I'm sure you're aware, the legal process can be quite time-consuming, as I'm sure the solicitor would agree. So this is a challenge we've got. I think there's a challenge the police have as well, is trying to get this operator to engage with us. But as I say, it's a graduated process. We just have to keep on chipping away at it, unfortunately.
Thank you ever so much. That's really informative. Is anybody any further questions from the committee? I don't have any specific questions to ask on this. So now going to hold over, sorry, over to the police. Sergeant Gosling, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions of Mr. Hill. How, obviously, I'm acutely aware of how many engagements you have with different licensed premises throughout BCP, because quite frequently we find ourselves doing the same engagements for different things. How unusual is it for a licensee not to engage at all, which is my experience of this particular operator?
It's incredibly unusual. Normally licensees are really keen to engage with us. I think as an environmental health team, we pride ourselves, we work with businesses. You know, a lot of members of the public think that our role is purely enforcement. But before we get to this stage, we make so many offers with businesses to assist them. The Licensing Act, particularly with regards, you know, can be quite complex, and some business operators might find it really difficult to interpret the requirements of the Act. So we work we pride ourselves in working really closely with businesses to try and assist them. This business operator has not engaged with us whatsoever, which is very unlikely. You know, business operators are normally really keen to access our knowledge, our experience of the area, and yeah, so it's highly unlikely.
Come back to Councillor Richardson.
Could I just ask the legal experts, is that not a contravention of the licence refusal to engage?
Well, one's certainly got a duty to cooperate with the authorities. So if you're asked a reasonable question and you're asked to cooperate, simply as a matter of common sense, one would do it, because the sanction is this sort of application or escalated revocation. This application would have been served, and so the license holder will be aware that it's not being suggested that revocation should take place, but that conditions are applied. But obviously, if things move on, they would then be aware of revocation being on the cards, and that might logically encourage more cooperation.
So normally during the process of a license review, there's an opportunity for the licensee to mediate with us in order to effectively avoid getting to the stage. The licensee had ample opportunity to mediate with me in terms of if his intention was to operate as a restaurant, he could have mediated with me. He could have gone, well, actually, Mr. Hill, these conditions you're applying for are conditions which are more in line with a vertical drinking establishment or a live music venue. He's not done that. He's had ample opportunity to do that. He could potentially have come back to me to say, well, actually, I don't agree to these conditions. However, I will offer you conditions which are more in line with a restaurant. So conditions such as alcohol should only be consumed with a meal, or music shall be at background levels only. We have a number of restaurants in the area which we were more than happy to provide advice on which would be appropriate conditions for the premises without being unduly restrictive on the premises. You know, particularly with regards to the sanction of disapplying the Live Music Act, that's quite a big sanction on a business. And a number of restaurants benefit from, you know, being able to actually have an acoustic singer or live, and we're not saying that could not have, but had the licensee engaged with us and offered to mediate with us, then I would have been more than happy to do that. So I hope that answers your question as well.
Yes, of course, that's for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
But the point of your report is that you don't consider there has been any breach of condition because the conditions are virtually non-existent.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point of this application.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sergeant Gosling, I think you had some question.
Unless a member of the committee.
Yeah, I'm just still struggling with the what if. I mean, if for instance we decided to revoke, would that, in your opinion, be a step too far?
It's up to the subcommittee. I can only comment on the prevention of nuisance objectives. I can't comment on the other 4 licensing objectives. I think my colleagues in the police may find they've not made their representation yet, but I believe they may have other concerns with the premises as well. I believe at the moment the currently, because the premises is closed at the moment, I've not had any complaints. The operators decide to close the premises temporarily, potentially because when so. Your question is, do I believe if you were to revoke the premises license would be a step too far? I would not have enough objective evidence in order to ask you to do that, although I would need to be honest, I don't think I would have enough, because that's quite a significant sanction on the business. However, looking at the whole picture in terms of the other 3 licensing objectives, the committee may find that that would be an appropriate response.
Perhaps Sergeant Gosling would answer the same question.
I will no doubt have a number of questions from you once, or Louise will have a number of questions of you so when the time is right. I've just got one more question, Mr. Hill. In respect of, we've had a very similar experience around the lack of engagement. In fact, Mr. Hill, with his 1 period of engagement, is one more than we've had. But that will come later in the presentation from Louise. My question, based upon the conversation that has taken place, is do you think that it may be appropriate as an option to consider, given the fact that this premises has not necessarily succeeded, based upon the fact that we're here now, it's not been a benefit to the community as a licensed premises with a range of options, including entertainment, etc. What would your thoughts be on the premises license being revoked? And I know that the legal advisor will have a thought on this as well. But your thoughts on this premises license being not fit for purpose for this premises as it stands, and that would then open the opportunity for the premises to apply for a new premises license, which would be more in keeping with a restaurant or something similar, rather than trying to make this one fit, given the lack of engagement that we have had, despite significant efforts on the parts of all responsible authorities.
Yeah. So what you're suggesting is that the license is revoked and then the applicant reapplies for the license, or?
It would be the case of having an application, a license that would be more in keeping from the outset with a restaurant or whatever it is that the premises license holder, the current license holder, or the owner intends to deliver in the future.
That does seem like a pragmatic approach. I need to be honest, I think my knowledge of the Licensing Act isn't sufficient to be able to comment any further than that. Potentially the solicitor may be able to provide further whether that would be a viable option. It does make sense. It seems to be a more pragmatic approach, but I'm not in a position to agree to that because I don't think I've got I can't agree to that. I think that's a decision for the board. And I potentially should take legal advice on that as well, whether that would be a sensible.
Can I say that obviously the committee will consider all the evidence. You're giving an aspect of the evidence, but we'll hear some more evidence in due course, and the committee has to consider all that to see whether the premises failure to promote the licensing objectives is sufficient to justify a revocation, or if it's insufficient, whether the conditions which are proposed, not only by yourself, but also by the police, cumulatively, would be sufficient to ensure that or help to ensure that licensing objectives are met.
Yeah.
Revocation is a very strong remedy, and we need to hear what the rest of the evidence is before one could get to the position as to deciding whether or not it's appropriate in those circumstances to revoke or not.
So bringing Councillor Richardson in.
Could I just ask, I might have missed it in all the documents, Did you say the premises are currently closed, and how did that all come about?
I've done a number of visits. Unfortunately, I've not done a visits at night, but I have done a number of visits since the 22nd of June, I believe. And the premises does appear to be closed. So I've looked through the window, but there seems to be no change to the premises. The tables and chairs are still there. It just appears to have been locked up. I've had no complaints from local residents since the review was lodged. So whether the operator has decided to close the premises, seek alternative, I really don't know. There's been no contact from the operator either. So hence why I don't have any objective evidence at present to ask for anything more than I've already asked for, because we don't have any evidence at the moment of any.
Any further questions? Sergeant Gosling, do you have any further questions?
Just one more final question. Given your experience, and it's a very straightforward question, given your experience to date with the licence holder, are you confident that they will meet the conditions that you're proposing?
I've had no contact from the operator, but yeah, I've had no contact from the operator. I'm hoping that after today that the operator will engage with me. Yeah, I've had no contact from the operator. I have to be completely honest.
Come over to licensing. Do you have any questions at all?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
That's great. Okay, I think we'll fine with that in that case. I'm going to hand over to Sergeant Gosling for your.
So this application in support of the premises licence review for the governor, it's being brought before the subcommittee due to evidence that the licensing objectives, specifically the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety, have been undermined. The committee will be aware that our team strives to engage, support licensees throughout Dorset, BCP specifically in this case, and that licensees will strive to meet the licensing objectives. And to reiterate Andrew Hill's introduction, that it is of significant concern that despite our innumerable attempts to engage with the operator, there's been no response whatsoever, to the extent whereby emails I've sent, letters that we've formally sent by recorded delivery, they've just not even been acknowledged. And this is despite significant incidents being reported to Dorset Police that demand some sort of reaction or response from the operator. We can evidence that this premises has failed to meet the standards that we respect of a responsible operator. And we're not even suggesting gold standard at this stage. I mean, that's the utopia. This isn't even meeting the basic licensing objectives or complying with the few conditions attached to the premises license. And I'll not reiterate the information that you've got in front of you in our submission, but obviously invite you to ask any questions that you have in relation to this application. But just to reiterate that we have got zero confidence in this operator. It's normally the opportunity for an operator to attend a hearing, offer us reassurances, offer the subcommittee assurances that things will change, history will change, but he's not even taking that opportunity. And therefore, I reiterate that we have absolutely no confidence in the operator. And despite previous attempts to engage and conditions which we've proposed that might be appropriate to help this operator drive up his standards, it's been an impossibility because there's been no response. So there's nothing really further for me to say because our evidence is contained within this document, and I've got nothing further to add because we've had nothing further back from the operator. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much for that. I'm going to come up along to the committee. Any comments at all? Any other comments?
Sorry, in answer to your previous question, I've just been notified by the licensing officer that she last week received communication from a member of the public saying that the premises is now open again. So I'll be doing a visit this afternoon just to make sure. But yeah, so apparently the premises is now reopened.
Thank you for that. Anything you'd like to ask at all?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other comments, Sergeant Gosling? Okay. Thank you very much for that. It's really, really useful, the representations, comments on that. So it's really a case of summing up, isn't it?
Sorry, I've not made my.
Oh, you haven't? No.
No, sorry. My colleague was presenting it, and I'm just here for the representation. In reality, you know, we've heard from environmental health and we've heard from Dorset Police about their significant concerns. You have my copy of my representation, which sets out our perspective. You know, we've heard that the licence doesn't hold anything in the way of really enforceable conditions or, you know, that are appropriate to this type of venue. I don't really have anything further to add, if I'm honest, but just to say that, you know, I was present at the meeting that we attended when essentially it was a bar manager, I think, wasn't it, was in place of the licence holder. We all worked really hard to explain where we were, what was going on, what was happening, why it was so important that they engaged. You know, we did go out of our way to do that. I subsequently, having agreed with the bar manager that I would send an email to the licence holder, I did then, and you've got a copy of the email that I sent, clearly setting out that, you know, make a minor variation, add these conditions of your own by, you know, without us making you do that. I have never received any response on any level to that email. The only response I've ever had from this premises was relating to a question that I had in respect of a personal license of the designated premises supervisor. I emailed them and I did get a response. So from that, I would deduce that they are getting the emails because I emailed and had a response. I don't really think I can add anything further than that, but it was just to say I was there. We did go to extraordinary lengths to try and impress upon them how important it was.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the committee? Right. Thank you for your representations this morning. Really just going to ask people to sum up. I'm going to start with you. I think it's going to be quite succinct from.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add. Obviously, from everything that we've heard, I think for me, we just need to look at getting some conditions on here that will actually assist with the management of the premises.
Thank you. Come to the please. Would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Chair. Just really reiteration of my report that we fear for the safety of customers, residents, staff at this premises. The incidents that we have received intelligence about and been able to follow up and investigate to an extent evidence that there are serious concerns about the management of this premises, and combined with a lack of engagement by the operator, we fear very much that if this premises is allowed to keep its license, that there could be significant crime and disorder and implications on public safety. So notwithstanding the licensing objectives and the fact that they have not been promoted, we have serious concerns about the well-being of people should these premises be allowed to continue.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Hill.
Thank you. Whilst I've been advised that the intention of the premises is to operate as a restaurant, currently there's no evidence to suggest that this is the case, and therefore the conditions I've proposed to the licensing committee today are still in line with a vertical drinking establishment offering live and recorded music, which I believe is still applicable to this venue. I wish to reiterate my concerns regarding the late terminal hour of this premises, as well as the lack of controls on the premises license in relation to prevention of public nuisance in respect of the offering of live and recorded music at this venue. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes this. Oh, sorry, can I pass over to you, Sarah, if you have any to sum up?
I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
That now concludes this part of, so what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn and meet in private. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this morning. Welcome back to this morning's meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Okay, has somebody got their microphone on? All right, okay. Before we move on, I'm just going to pass over to the clerk to go through some housekeeping notices.
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or live streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building in Bourne Avenue. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum. Mobile phones and other devices are switched off or turned silent for the duration. And for those in the room, this includes turning off your microphones when you're not talking and turning down the volume on your laptops completely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask the members of the subcommittee this morning to introduce themselves. Start with you.
I'm Lawrence Williams, councillor for Littledown and Eyford and a member of this committee.
Councillor Judy Richardson, member of the Licensing Subcommittee.
I'm Councillor Chris Matthews. I'm also a member of the Licensing Subcommittee this morning, and for this morning's meeting I'll be chairing. So in attendance have Councillor Chapman Law, who's also a member of the subcommittee of the Licensing Committee. He's here in the capacity as a reserve member this morning, but will be observing proceedings. And also in the far corner we have another of our colleagues, Councillor Farquhar, who's also a member of the Licensing Committee, but he's just here observing this morning. So what I'm going to do now is ask all members present to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Tanya.
Thank you, Chair. So Tanya Jardine, Licensing Officer, and presenting this report.
Ellie King, Licensing Officer here, just as an observational role.
My name is Mike Forster. I'm a barrister at 12 College Place Barristers. I'm here to act as legal advisor to the committee.
Louise Smith, Democratic Support Officer and Clerk to today's subcommittee.
Louise Busfield, Licensing Officer with Dorset Police.
Gareth Gosling, Dorset Police. I'm the Sergeant for the Drug and Alcohol Harm Reduction Team.
Good morning, my name is Craig Deacon. I'm the Regional Manager for Marston's PLC.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Hazelwood from John Garton Partners and I'm here to represent Marston's PLC.
Good morning, Stephanie Kent from Marston's. I'm the Area Manager.
Good morning, Adam Seeley. I'm the landlord of the Bell pub.
Help net. Are any persons who wish to withdraw representation or wishes not to speak have been identified? If there are no comments, I will take this as correct. And I'm now going to explain the proposed procedure and the order of speaking for the hearing this morning. So firstly, the licensing officer presents the report. The questions of the licensing officer by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant, in this case Dorset Police, will make their application. Questions of the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. Persons representing the premises will then make their representations. And again, questions of persons representing the premises, members of the subcommittee to go first. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up at the end, with the party who has spoken last to go first. The hearing will then conclude and the subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. And the notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. So, so I'd like to ask everybody present just to agree that they're happy with that procedure this morning. And I am now yes, finally, can I remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information that they've already given in writing, but to expand on their written representations. And all questions are to be asked through the chair this morning, and there'll be no cross-examination of parties. I'm now going to ask the licensing officer to present their reports.
Thank you. So application has been made by Dorset Police for a review of the premises licence at the Bell 915 Christchurch Road, Bournemouth, under Section 51 of the Licensing Act 2003. On the grounds that they believe the premises are not upholding the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety licensing objectives. Dorset Police's licensing team first became concerned with these premises in October 2021, when Dorset Police attended the premises and discussed the provision of SIA security staff and records and CCTV coverage during AFC Bournemouth match day events. Since then, various reports have been received from members of the public and other police officers. These are detailed in the appendices to the report and relate to the sale of stolen goods that have not been corroborated and 2 serious incidents of violence. Dorset Police have engaged with the DPS and the licence holder in an attempt to agree changes to the premises licence that would give them confidence that the licensing objectives would be upheld. These changes were with regards to the CCTV system and better coverage from CCTV cameras, the employment of SIA security staff through an agency rather than direct, and to report incidents that occur at the premises via the pub watch and channels. Dorset Police have advised that despite engagement in the past 12 to 24 months, the premises licence holder have not made sufficient changes to the premises licence to mitigate Dorset Police's concerns, and consequently, Dorset Police no longer have confidence in the DPS and do not consider that these premises are promoting the licensing objectives to prevent crime and disorder, therefore presenting a risk to communities. Since submission of the review, Dorset Police have continued to mediate with the licence holder's solicitor and have discussed modification to the current conditions and the addition of other conditions for consideration by members in making their decision. These have been provided in the submissions by Dorset Police and subsequently in the supplementary information provided by the premises licence holder's solicitor, which members would have had sight of, and explains what agreements they've reached so far. Members will note that there are still some conditions that have not been agreed between both parties. These are with regards to the age verification policy, the requirement for a personal licence holder to be present on the premises when licensable activities are being provided, toilet checks, door supervisor requirements. Members are reminded that any powers exercised by them must be necessary and appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and directed at the causes of concern, which the application identifies. Once these have been established following this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'm now going to go to members of the subcommittee to see if they have any questions of the licensing officer. I have none. I'm going to open up to the police. Do you have any questions of the licensing officer? Okay. And the applicants, do you have any questions? No, that's great. Right, thank you for that. I'm now going to hand over to Dorset Police to make their application. So hand over to you. Oh yes, before I do that, in relation to this item, the subcommittee may be asked to consider the following resolution depending on the course of discussions at the hearing and the content of any supplementary information submitted. So under section 14(2) of the Licensing Act 2003, Hearings Regulations 2005, and with regard to section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that the public interest in withholding information outweighs such interest in disclosing the information, and that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1, 2 and 7 in part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act. So we're going to, at that point, make this an exempt session.